This is Noble Meyer, and you're listening to Swimming Upstream.
Swimming Upstream, back with you guys in a big way. This is going to be really fun. Alex Carver, Isaac Azout, and our guest that needs no intro, but we're going to do it anyways. Marlins top pitching prospect and one of the top pitching prospects of baseball, Mr. Thomas White. Going to be really fun. Just absolutely dominant season from this kid. It's been amazing to watch. Just rips through it. I mean, no real flaw that we could see in the stats. We're going to get his thoughts about how his season has gone so far from spring training, where he came in literally throwing 100 like third day, I think it was, up until what's happened recently with the Pensacola Blue Wahoo. So this is awesome. Again, Thomas, we really, really appreciate your time. Let's just get right through it, man. I mean, like, this season's been amazing. We can point to the stats. You're at the top of the charts in many stat categories. I'm sure you may or may not pay attention to stats, but I'm sure you know what you're doing. We're going to get to it today with you, but I appreciate you coming on. How's it going?
Yeah, of course. Been pretty good so far. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, look at the stats. 2.27 ERA, 2.13 FIP, 118.37 KBB, currently on a stretch of like 20 innings with a 1.33 ERA. It's insane. But it all started very early for you. That's spring training. So I want to start there. Second professional spring training, you were up to, like I said, like 100 with the velo, pretty much like first, second, third day. How'd you feel coming in? What was it like coming into your second full spring training? I know things were different around camp. We'll get to that in a second. But how'd you feel overall coming in? And what was that original output like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it felt good kind of knowing the schedule and the grind of spring training. Then again, it also kind of felt like the first season again, since we have so many new things going on in the org. So it's exciting in that regard. But it was good to like have a baseline of what to expect.
Thomas, you've been in the organization since 2023. You've undergone a few different regimes, I guess, at baseball operation departments. Could you sort of touch on some of the changes that you noticed, whether analytically driven or just some of the changes you noticed going to spring training this year or throughout the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more analytically driven. I'd say it's a little more in depth on a lot of things. Like we get post-game reports now that are more analytically driven. Like we get like pitching plus grades, stuff plus grades. We get all that kind of stuff. I didn't know that in spring training, obviously. But in spring training, we just like so much more energy, more of an intent, different ways of doing things. It took some getting used to, with the different bullpen setups and facing hitters all the time. I could literally point to anything. Like our strength department is a lot different and our pitching department is a lot different. I know our hitters are experiencing a lot of different things. So it's kind of like a complete overhaul in a lot of ways.
Gosh, yeah, I definitely looked and felt different out there from past spring trainings, for sure. But end of spring training, we'll get there. We saw you participating and competing against AA, I think even some AAA hitters. Mostly, I think that's what you did, competed against on the main fields, I guess I would say back there against some of the more advanced competition. But then the assignments come down here back in Beloit to start at least. And now, of course, now back to Pensacola, which we'll get to. But with that initial assignment, were you surprised? Were you okay with it? What was your thought about going back up to Wisconsin to start?
I was surprised. I think most people that I talked to were pretty surprised about it. A little disappointed maybe to begin. I'd hoped to start there, or start in AA. But at the same time, they gave me a reason. Just trying to land my breaking balls, and we were tinkering with them kind of all in spring training, and I never really got that great of a feel for them. So sending me back there to work on getting them in zone a little bit better. And honestly, maybe they were trying to mentally challenge me. Like, I don't know. But I think it was actually really, really good for me in the end. I don't think it slowed me down. I think it really just kind of realizing like, hey, let's be where our feet are. You'll get to the big leagues eventually. You really don't need to rush it. So be where your feet are, continue to adjust and make improvements, and then go from there.
In the words of a very mature young man. AA Pensacola, AA is considered one of the toughest levels in the minor leagues, probably the toughest. Just curious how you would view that jump from Beloit to Pensacola, and just maybe some of the help you've gotten, especially with Jared Eichhoff, just so overall the transition to Double A ball.
Yeah, my first couple starts were a bit rough. The hitters here, they take a lot early. At least the first couple teams that we faced, especially since I was a new addition, they were taking early, making me kind of come at them, and making me go on the attack. I'm still working on trying to get in the zone a little bit more. The stuff has taken a pretty big jump compared to last year. So now it's, again, trying to dial in, limit the walks, get ahead of hitters. And I've been really challenged to do that here. And I think my first couple starts kind of showcased that with the line. And Jared's been probably the best pitching coach I've ever worked with, to be honest. He helps me simplify things. I tend to overthink, try to make every adjustment in the book. Whereas for me, it was as simple as let's find one cue and let's change it from let's get in the zone, and we're going to change it to we're going to attack every hitter, and we're going to execute each pitch regardless of outcome. If the intent is to go 1-2 fastball above the zone, and I do that, and the guy doesn't swing, that's still an executed pitch. We're trying to get a swing and miss, and just because he didn't swing at it doesn't mean it was a bad pitch. And kind of taking those little wins and stacking each pitch together was a really big thing. So we found a good cue, and my first attempt at that mindset was in Knoxville when I had 14 strikeouts. So since then, just kind of stuck with it and continued to pitch well. I mean, just find the mindset and hold that cue and keep going.
Just wanted to ask you about a guy that you were teammates with, I think, earlier this year, and that you were around in spring training, that you described as a guy that you really leaned on. He's with the Shrimp now, but you've described him as a guy that's been helpful for you. I think personally on the verge of a call up from the Marlins, but we'll see what happens with that. Robbie Snelling. So just what he meant for you and what you guys have worked on, maybe some advice that he's given you as an older guy, some things that you guys maybe shared with each other. What's the relationship with him like?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know him too well. I'd met him last year at the Futures game and then saw him again in spring training. We talked off and on just because he was mostly with the pitching against AAA guys. I was pitching against the AA guys. So talked to him a little bit, but didn't get that close to him. And then when I got up here while he was still here, him, Dax, Fulton, and I were just – it was like the three of us. We'd all talk about, anything and everything, whether it's pitch grips, mechanics, field stuff, intent stuff, target stuff. Honestly, it was anything and everything that we had questions about. The three of us would kind of just bounce ideas off each other. And Robbie is exactly like I am. High draft pick, lefty, flew through the minors. And he was in AA in his first season, I think, and had an insane ERA. So he's doing exactly what I'm doing. And he's done it before, and he's continuing to do it. Obviously now in AAA, and he's super mature for his age, and just it feels like he's been in the big leagues already. And I'm talking to a big leaguer. He's got so much knowledge and experience that even though he's only had, I think, one more year in pro ball than I have, it just feels like he's got a wealth of knowledge that I can tap into anytime. And one of the best dudes I've ever met.
He's someone you actually pitched with in the 2024 Futures game. I wanted to ask you about this year's game. Obviously, I don't think it went exactly the way you would have liked, but still a tremendous honor for you to pitch in this game for the second time in a row. Just your thoughts on the overall weekend, the atmosphere, just how was that performance for you?
Yeah, Robbie saved my tail the first time. And then, honestly, the both times that I went to the Futures game, I was kind of in my worst spot, mechanically. Just kind of searching, a little uncomfortable on the mound. So went through that again. Like you said, didn't go the way I wanted, but just another way to get around. Chipper Jones was our manager from my side, and it's an unreal experience. You get to be around Hall of Famers, and your teammates are going to be future big leaguers and Hall of Famers. I was talking to Jonah Tong a little bit, him and J.R. Ritchie, we were bouncing ideas off each other, talking, getting to know each other. So super cool to see that. And now Jonah's going to make his debut against the Marlins tomorrow, I think, right? Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So pretty crazy, pretty cool experience. And obviously being in a big league ballpark is, next to nothing.
maybe not where you want it to be that day, but as you said before, a day where you were at your probably best, I would say, maybe you could tell me career best, maybe even that, was that July 26th game where you strike out 14 batters in 5 innings. Literally historic performance. Just like, tell me a little bit more about that day. What was working so well for you? Do you think like everything showed up at once for you that day?
I think half a season's work of hard work and, for me, struggle. The numbers didn't really show it in Beloit, but it's kind of been a nightmare season up until that point where it was like up and down, tweaking stuff, trying to fix things, thinking about too much in outings. And then, even though the line wasn't that bad, I was pretty frustrated with where I was at. And it just honestly felt like everything just kind of went like this, like just kind of zeroed in, dialed in, and I didn't even have everything working. Like my changeup was really good, my fastball was solid, the sweeper wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be, and the cutter gyro thing was still a work in progress. But it was more like an execution based. Like I just executed almost every pitch. I feel like exactly where I wanted to, my stuff plus grade that I got after that game was actually the worst it had been all season. Like one of my worst days, stuff plus wise. So that just, it shows that, even on my days where I don't have my stuff, is that if I execute, I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a good day. And obviously, you're not always going to have your best stuff. So to be able to execute on days like that is a good feeling. And then I could hold that feeling and that mentality and bring it into the next week. And then, Montgomery, where I hit like 101 or 100.7 or something. Like that was a good stuff plus day, and I was more in the zone. So it's like you're gonna have it come together at some point.
If you can, what did grade out poorly in that 14 strikeout game? You said the report wasn't great. Which pitches, if anything, were the ones that graded poorly?
The sweeper wasn't very good, and the fastball wasn't where I wanted it to be. I mean, it still wasn't bad, but it wasn't what I was looking for at that point.
All right, 14 of the 15 outs recorded via strikeout, and he wasn't all there. It's pretty impressive stuff. We've been hearing raving reviews about the gyro slider you've been throwing. You've been tweaking it a little bit. You can just sort of touch on that and what your confidence is on that pitch, and maybe any other additions you've made to your arsenal this year.
Honestly, that pitch has been like a love-hate relationship with it. It was really good early on. And then it really wasn't good, and then it was kind of a non-factor, and now I'm starting to be able to figure it out again. I think because I'm like an ultra pronator that I really kind of struggle to throw breaking balls super hard, and I'm trying to get that pitch to be like 90, 92, kind of like Scooble's like slutter cutter thingy. When I get it right, it's really really good. It's just I'm not super consistent with it yet. Recently, we turned to a little bit more of a cutter approach on it. Instead of thinking gyro, we're kind of trying to think more cutter just to see if that gets me to throw it a little harder. And I was throwing it at like 87 to 89 last week, so trying to build on it. Work in progress, like you said, but I think there's a lot of potential in that pitch to be a true weapon. Whereas right now, it's more like a 2-0. I can kind of flick it in there and steal a strike just because I don't throw it very often. Whereas in the future, I think it could hopefully turn out to be something like Crochet's cutter. Maybe not that good, but like if I can use it in a similar way, I think that's the end goal for that pitch. Honestly, every single grip has changed this year. So there's a lot of different things that still need a little more consistency, but the ceiling has been pretty unreal on most of them. So now it's about dialing in the movement and getting those clusters to be a little closer.
I guess we can ask quickly about receivers that have caught you this year. I mean, I know that he's injured now. He may be done for the year, I think, from what I heard. But with Ryan and you throwing to him mostly this year, I think, is the guy that you've thrown to the most. How do you think that he handled your stuff and helped you grow as a pitcher so far this year?
I mean, he's got an absolute cannon. I mean, he's thrown out an absurd amount of runners. It's when you watch him go, it's pretty unbelievable. You just know, like, as a pitcher, if you're sub like 1.4 seconds maybe to the plate, like he's going to throw him out. So that aspect is pretty ridiculous. and his catching has gotten so much better. I mean, this is year 2 of him catching consistently, so the receiving's gotten a lot better. He continues to improve on that part. And I think he believes he still has more to gain on that aspect, but I mean, he throws out an absurd amount of runners. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, second year catching too. So had to ask about that. I think we only got a couple more. I mean, this has been awesome so far, even though we packed it into a pretty tight window. But I guess the second to last one that we can ask, unless Isaac has anything else, is about pitch count. They were pretty stringent with you early with pitch count. They were basically right at like 85, 86 pitches per start. And then recently they basically took the reins off and said, okay, let's let this guy throw 100 pitches to start. Yeah. So just thoughts about the workload. How are you adjusting to just throwing those extra pitches? Were you always good to throw those extra pitches? They were just taking it easy. What was the deal with that?
I think it was good for the first season to have the reins on, not do too much. Obviously, in the big leagues, you don't have any reins. You don't have anybody holding you back. So I do think it was good. I think it's good to extend the pitch count, get deeper into games, which is the one thing I am most frustrated about. Is I'm not super efficient at going deeper into games. In my opinion, throw too many pitches in too little innings. But I get a ton of swing and miss right now. I'm striking a lot of guys out, so it's kind of how do I throw more strikes to get batters out of there quicker and go deeper into the games? Because 100 pitches should get you through more than just 5 innings or 4 2/3. So still working on that, but I think it's nice to extend it. The body feels pretty good. The arm feels great right now. I think I'm in a good spot with that, and I think the next adjustment is going to a 5-man rotation and not having that extra day.
Well, Thomas, before I ask you probably my final one of the day, I wanted to ask you about your high school career a little bit, particularly your junior year, where you just put up insane numbers, a .21 ERA. You're named Gatorade Player of the Year. Just how does a season like that happen? You give up, I assume, 1 earned run all year. Just take us through that season if you can, because that's one of the most absurd ERAs I've ever seen.
Honestly, I had kind of struggled with command up until that point. I made some changes in my delivery, which I regret now, but it was good for back then. And I felt like I filled up the zone really well that year. I had a really good defense behind me too, so I won't say that, because we had a bunch of D1 guys behind me, and behind the plate I had a D1 catcher, had a D1 outfielder, D1 shortstop. So we had a pretty good team. I don't remember much about that season other than how fun it was. But I think my goal was literally to just throw as many strikes as possible and see what happened. And I was able to do that. I think I would have had a better senior year, but I got tagged in my last start by a pretty good team. So you got to give them credit there.
Yeah. Well, you still won Gatorade Player of the Year anyway, despite that.
Lucky.
Despite that tagging. But last one for me, just what would be a successful end of the regular season for you, Thomas, aside from the obvious, a potential call-up, but I'm curious, what would be, what else would you like to accomplish before the end of the year?
I think end the year healthy, as always. It's always everybody's goal. I'd like to hopefully get the Blue Wahoos in the playoffs and see if we can finish out strong there. And then honestly, just find some consistency with the pitch movement in these last couple weeks, and set up kind of a good off-season goal with all that kind of stuff. And yeah, like you said, I'd love to get a start in AAA if possible and maybe help them in the playoffs, but that part's out of my control. So I'm going to try and finish as good as I can here, stay on the winning track, and hopefully we can get into the playoffs too.
All right. Wow. Awesome stuff. Like I said, quality here over quantity with a 19-minute interview. Some great stuff. Just that standout moment. 14 strikeouts, and he didn't even have his best stuff. That's Thomas White in a nutshell right there for you guys. So, Thomas, man, appreciate your time. This was incredible. Next start coming up soon, so wish you the best of luck. Keep going, dude. This has been amazing to follow your career so far from both of us and all of us at Fish on First. Appreciate your time today. Appreciate the Wahoos for putting it on. And, again, man, this is great. Thank you again.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for your time. It's good to see you all again, and hopefully we run into each other in person soon.
Absolutely. There you go, guys. Swimming Upstream with top prospect Thomas White. We'll be back on the next one. See you guys then. Go Fish.